Hey everyone, welcome back to the Transition Back to Campus webinar series. I'm Khan, and this is my colleague Will, and we will be discussing overstimulation when returning back to campus.
Hi everyone. So the purpose of our webinar today is to help inform ourselves on how to cope with physical and social overstimulation, but also help ourselves to adjust and create boundaries that suit our needs.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. So first of all, it can be a noisy and overstimulating experience being around many people in person again.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, Con. Overstimulating might not just be the noise, but also the amount of people around us being thrust back into such a stimulating environment. Also, it's important to keep in mind that many people feel this way, and half of all adults currently are not comfortable with returning to the way life used to be pre-pandemic.
That's a great point, as it can feel very alienating when going through this individually. But it's important to remember that many people are also going through the same adjustment periods and that it can vary by the person of how long and what is needed for them to reacclimate to being in person environments again.
That's a great point, Con. So now let's go over some of the physical effects of overstimulation and how highly stimulating environments affect our bodies.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, being around a lot of external stimuli, such as a dynamic campus environment after having been away from those situations for over a year, can be exhausting and overwhelming. This effect is even more pronounced for those that lived alone and in more solitary environments than those that live with others.
Yeah, one way to think about this is before the pandemic, our brains were used to separating out the various stimuli in our environments, such as conversation noise and background noise. And being more isolated and away from these situations during the pandemic, our brains may need time to re engage and get used to sorting out these noises and stimuli again.
Definitely. And a way to recognize when this is happening is that in certain highly stimulating environments, you might find yourself feeling overwhelmed by all the noise and stimuli around you, where you may experience extra difficulties in concentrating and interacting with others. I personally have experienced this myself when I was attending a welcome back event for my cohort and had trouble concentrating and felt very exhausted after. Will, can you share a little bit more about what overstimulation means or looks like?
Of course, Con. So, overstimulation or sensory overload can occur due to competing sensory information that our brain is having trouble interpreting simultaneously. Sensory overload can happen when we get more input from our five senses than our brain can process. And this can look like multiple conversations going on at once, someone not respecting your personal distance, or getting packed like sardines on your campus bus to class.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great examples. And it's common to feel stuck when this happens, as your brain can't prioritize what sensory information to focus on. And you may experience feeling trapped and possibly even start to panic as a reaction. So you can recognize if you're feeling overstimulated with the following symptoms: feeling overwhelmed and distracted, nervousness, panic, or fear, having a rapid heartbeat, increased sweating, and trouble concentrating or interacting like usual.
So now that we know what overstimulation looks like, let's think about what we can do when we are feeling this way. First, we would want to know and recognize what triggers our sensory overload, as it can vary person by person. Some common triggers can be bright lights, loud noises, or crowded areas.
You can also start small and develop comfort with lower stimulating environments and work your way up to highly stimulating environments gradually. And if you find yourself feeling overstimulated in a certain situation, you can move to another less stimulating area to calm yourself. For example, I have trouble with crowded areas, so being in those environments again has taken some time for me to get used to.
Agreed. It's helpful to focus our intention on something specific, which can help ground ourselves in the moment. One great way to do this is by practicing mindfulness, where we are paying attention to our breathing in the present moment and not attaching meaning to our feelings or thoughts. Another great way to help us relax can be through breathing exercises. One breathing exercise I've found to be useful is the squared breathing exercise, where we exhale for 4 seconds, hold our lungs empty for 4 seconds, exhale for and inhale for 4 seconds, and then hold our breath for 4 seconds. And we repeat this pattern as many times as it takes to feel more relaxed. And to help remember this technique, you can draw a square as you follow the steps.
Mhm. That's a great exercise, Will. Recognizing thoughts and sensations can be a great way to realize when you may be feeling overstimulated and anxious. And staying in the present moment can be a great way to cope with this. For example, paying attention to and focusing on what a person may be saying in a conversation helps keep me in the moment and makes me less likely to dwell on any preoccupations that I may be having.
Thanks for sharing, Khan. I would also recommend getting rest and sleep and drinking lots of water, as this can help us feel better physically and mentally as well. Also, if we do all these and we still find ourselves feeling overstimulated at times, don't worry. The brain is plastic and will eventually adapt to these new stimulating environments once again.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about the social or highly stimulating day-to-day aspects of returning back to campus after spending so much time working and attending classes from home.
Yeah, even getting back into the routine of returning to normal life can be exhausting. Commuting to campus, attending in person classes, socializing in person, just being on campus in a highly stimulating college environment, all of these can add up and make us feel overstimulated and exhausted.
That's a great point. I know I experienced this myself, and even dropped an extra class I was taking because I was worried it'd be too much on my plate. And looking back, I'm so glad I did and feel much more comfortable, and my schedule seems much more manageable when I'm going at my own pace according to my needs. So now let's talk about some ways you can decide on and set your boundaries when accommodating to being back on campus. First of all, it's important to know that setting boundaries for yourself is normal and healthy, especially in these kinds of circumstances. Everyone is different in how they react and adjust to being back in person, so it's important for you to adjust according to your needs when it comes to adjusting back.
Definitely. We can set our own boundaries and communicate about what environments are most comfortable to ourselves. For example, we can see if our classes have hybrid or remote options if we're not quite comfortable with fully attending classes in person. It's important to pay attention to how we feel and decide what is the best pace for us to acclimate to this new, highly stimulating environment in day to day life.
Absolutely. So, going along with that, as we mentioned earlier, although adjusting back to a highly stimulating in person college environment can be overwhelming at times and take some time to adjust and get used to, you'll eventually get acclimated to this way of life. And there are things that you can do to help you gradually readjust. Will, care to share some of these tips?
Of course. So we recommend starting off small and working our way up, both in terms of length of time in stimulating environments and the level of stimulation in each environment. So this could look like meeting up with a friend at a cafe for 10 minutes, getting together outside with friends for 30 minutes. Maybe the next time you try getting together for an hour. And then maybe try attending a bigger, more stimulating event like an on campus event.
That's a great way to help gradually readjust. And you can also frame this and these exercises as an opportunity to cultivate resilience as well.
That's a great tip, Con. Experts recommend going at our own pace, communicating our own needs, and reframing these transitions, all as ways to build resilience and ways to cope with transitioning back to a highly stimulating in person environment.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that even though our normal way of life has been disrupted, we can still create a happy, satisfying life as we reacclimate to being in more in-person environments again. And that's it for this webinar. Here are the sources that provide the information we used. And
And here are additional resources and ways to get in contact with us, including our email address, our website to request individual check-ins, and other services and resources, as well as our Instagram and YouTube page where you can see additional content or webinars that you might find helpful. You can see all of these in the description as well.
The Center for Psychological Services of the Rutgers Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology, in collaboration with the New Jersey Department of Human Services Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services, Disaster and Terrorism Branch, offers this crisis counseling program through a Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA/SAMHSA grant. This program is brought to you through the New Jersey Hope and Healing Crisis Counseling Program. And thanks for watching.